Hello, welcome to my devotional. Excuse me. Welcome to my devotional. I hope you're having a great day. We're taking a look today at Proverbs chapter 6, verse 17. And so we're just going to jump right into that. But I want to read the context, as with all scriptures. You should always know the context. Many of the proverbs in the book of Proverbs are just one line verses that can be dealt with alone. However, some have a bit of a context around them, and the ones we're dealing with right now definitely do. So let's read verse 16 to 19, and then we're going to focus on what verse 17 says. So here's what it says. There are 6 things which the Lord hates, yes, 7 which are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that run rapidly to evil, a false witness who utters lies, and one who spreads strife among brothers. So here we have this list of 7 things that God hates. He hates them. And really worth emphasizing that. You can look at yesterday's devotional to get a little more on verse 16 where it says this, but I do want to say it again today. These are things that God hates. So he uses that very strong word. He hates this, or uses that other term, abomination, which is kind of a way of saying he finds it disgusting, like it repulses him. So there's an intensity of opposition here, right? The whole idea that God is opposed to these things is what's being said here. And so that's a pretty big deal. If God is, disgusted by something or he hates it, that's something we should pay attention to, especially if we want to, to do well in life, and especially when we think about our futures, having to stand before God, give account for our lives. We might want to know the things that he hates and try to avoid them. You're going to find in this list, really, all of us kind of hate these things, but yet so many humans fall into them. And so let's focus on verse 17. So verse 17, understanding that's what it's about. Let's focus on those 3 things in verse 17. It says haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. So there's 3 ideas there. Haughty eyes, that's talking about arrogance, like this kind of self-importance. It's the thing. What it's saying here is God is disgusted by it. He hates arrogance. Really, I guess we all kind of do, don't you? Don't you? Doesn't it just grate on your nerves when there's an arrogant person that you have to interact with, and they're just so full of themselves? God hates that too. I mean, you can imagine how much more so God would be disgusted by such a thing when you think about how high and mighty and awesome and perfect God is, perfect knowledge, perfect wisdom, perfect everything. And then someone comes before him and is just like full of themselves and how important they are and how great they are and what I've done. And it must really turn God sour in his stomach, so to speak. Not that he has a stomach, but so to speak. But he does. This is what this is telling us. And throughout the scriptures, we get a lot of places where it lets us know, God is opposed to the proud. He doesn't have much time for arrogance. We need to understand arrogance. Arrogance isn't just the person who is like self-congratulatory or self-praising. It's not just that. It's not a person who's just, I'm so good. That is arrogance. But it's not just that. Arrogance is kind of this whole attitude of self-importance, right? So it can come out in other ways as well. A person can still be very arrogant without ever actually verbalizing it, right? They can be still arrogant. Arrogance is kind of this selfish, self-importance, entitlement, not proper entitlement. We have certain things we're properly entitled to, but it's kind of entitled. I deserve this and I deserve that. And I deserve your appreciation. I deserve respect from you. I deserve everything from you. I deserve all this. Kind of it's a self-important thing. And that's what arrogance is. Not just self-awareness either. We can make that mistake sometimes and think that that just to be aware that you're talented, or aware that you're handsome or pretty, or that you're smart is arrogance. Well, it's not. Just being aware of that. You can know that you're smart. You can know that you're talented. You can know those things and not be arrogant. But arrogance kind of comes with a self puffing up, right? Is that I'm good, I'm really good, and you kind of build yourself up. It's moving into that place. It's usually connected to the idea of how you interact with another person. Arrogance is usually your importance projected onto others, and that's more what arrogance is, rather than just your understanding of yourself. So God's disgusted with that. I remember watching this competition once. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was American Idol or something. I don't know. Whatever it was, some competition once. I can remember one of the contestants was so angry, and they they had traveled to this competition, and they said something to this effect. It's like, I came all the way to this competition and I didn't even win. And it was like, what do you mean you didn't even win? Like you you came to the competition and you think that something wrong was done to you because you didn't win. Like, that's arrogant. That's an example of arrogance, and God is disgusted by it. And that's important. And then he says this about lying lips, right? So there's these images of the eyes, the haughty eyes, and the lying lips. It's all to help you remember. But the idea of the lying lips, well, God is disgusted by lying. He's disgusted by lying. He doesn't like it. God is true. He's truthful. He tells the truth. He's all about truth. And so he hates lying. Now, lying is not just saying wrong words, right? You can still lie without using words. You can lie with the pointing of your hand. You can lie with the wink in your eye. You can lie with silence. Lying is more about the intent to mislead someone unjustly mislead someone. And it's important to say unjustly, because there are some cases where, what some people might call lying is permitted, and I wouldn't call it lying, but just to clarify, keeping a secret. That's not what this is talking about, right? That's like, okay, I'm not going to tell somebody's private information out to the world. That's not lying, right? That's at least not the way this is talking. It's or the idea of telling a joke, and in the joke you kind of set someone up for the joke, and then they fall for it, and then you all laugh, and it's fine. No, that's part of the joke. That's not lying in this sense, right? Or that you're playing a game and you're playing cards or something, and you're bluffing your way through that moment, and that's part of the game, and everybody knows it. That's not what this is talking about. Those aren't the kind of lying this is talking about. This is talking about that malicious. Remember the context of the last paragraph. That malicious, unjust deceiving of someone, usually for your own benefit in some way. And that's what he's talking about. And God is disgusted by that. He simply is disgusted by it. He's repulsed by it. He hates it. And being a person who misleads others to get your advantage over them, to get something from them, to steal from them, or to get them to agree to something that they wouldn't otherwise agree to, or to get them to favor you in some way. And it's all about you. It's all about basically stealing from them through deception, taking from them something that they didn't want to give. I better be careful what I say, but there's lots of people that make a profession of doing this in the world. And God is repulsed by it. And it's something to think about, even just in the movies you watch. You ever watch a movie about a con man, and you're like, oh, it's such an interesting movie how he did that. And well, God's repulsed by con men. He really is, and we're going to see that over and over again in Proverbs. He is repulsed by that. He hates that, right? Taking confidence and then deceiving someone because they gave you their confidence. That's pretty awful. And the last one that's listed here is that idea of shedding blood, hands that shed blood. So it's moving through the body, right? The eyes, the mouth, the hands that shed blood, shed innocent blood, not just shed blood, but shed innocent blood. The Bible isn't saying that killing is never okay. There's times when a killing thing has to happen. Some sort of a death has to occur. That's a thing. It's talking about unjust killing, right? What we would call murder. He's repulsed by murder, self-defense and things like that. Those are things that have to happen sometimes. But as far as murder is concerned, the unjust killing of a human being, God hates that. He's disgusted by it, repulsed by it. So this is saying he hates it. It's just awful to him, an abomination to him that you would kill someone who is innocent. There was no just reason to take that life. That is just wrong in God's eyes. So it's an important question to ask us whenever a human being is killed, right? It's an important thing to ask ourselves. Is that just? Is that something that should happen? Is it just? And just doesn't mean socially acceptable. Just means righteously right. Like, look to God for what just is. That's an important question to ask, because God hates it when someone is killed unjustly. And so that's something sobering. All right. So all these are grouped together. They're grouped in this verse, and it's meant to show us some things about character traits we could start to develop that aren't right. We want to be careful about that, or actions we could move to that would be just wrong and immoral, and that God would hate. That's good. But I think one last final thought here is just to think about the fact that these are grouped together, right? There's 7 things in total, but these 3 are grouped together. And murder, which I think most of us could probably agree, murder is terrible. Um, and then the lying, the deception, and the scheming, the deceiving, mm, yeah, and then arrogance, and they're grouped together. Like God is disgusted by arrogance in the same sentence that He's disgusted by murder. This isn't equating them as if arrogance and murder were the same, but they have the same effect on God in that He is repulsed by them and hates them. And that's also kind of sobering. So makes you want to seek humility when you think that God would be repulsed by me being arrogant in a similar way that He would be repulsed by someone killing someone unjustly. So yeah, I don't want to be arrogant. I want to be humble. Something to think about. Um, and something for us to think about in a lot of areas of the current world we're in now, as we see the moral decay of our society, and all these things being increasingly changed. Anyways, God bless you, and God help us to be good people. Yeah. God willing, I will come back tomorrow with verse 18. In the meantime, have a great day. See you later.